Hey guys, on today's episode, I'm heading out to sunny California to see Matt Farah and detail his Lamborghini Countach. Now, many years ago in high school, I would go to his room and look at his massive poster of this car and I'd say, hey man, if you ever got that car, I will totally detail it for you. Well, today is the day, so I'm gonna head out there. Now this car is a little bit complicated. It's older Italian paint, it's single stage, it's very, very finicky, meaning it's thin, and of course he wants to keep it original. So we're gonna be doing a one pad, one polish technique. And I'm breaking out the big guns, meaning I am bringing Kevin Brown, Derek Bemiss, and Daniel Holinger to help me with the car because there's a lot of work and there's a lot of real estate, obviously. Plus, there's an added excitement. Matt is actually getting married in the next couple of weeks, so I'm really excited for him. I want to see him out there, and then of course I'm going to the wedding. But for me, I want to kind of prepare his car before he gets married. I think that would be kind of fun and meaningful to a longtime friend of mine. So we have a lot going on in this episode, that and tons more on Drive and Protect. The Lamborghini Countach is affectionately described as the first real supercar and hung on the wall of every child of the 80s wishing their mom's minivan had scissor doors. However, 30 years later, Matt achieved the dream of moving the poster from his wall to his very own garage. This is his 1988 Countach QV for Quattro Valvole, which is a dual overhead cam in Rosso Saviglia red. One of only 607 ever produced, with even fewer in this color combo with an Alpine CD player, the first in any production car at the time, and was a $9,000 option. Matt's car also has the only other option available, which was the wing, and that was an additional $5,000 in 1988 for a total MSRP of $124,000. To give the paint a proper inspection, we headed over to the warehouse where we could have a bit more space and light to see what needed to be done. All right, Matt, so tell me a little bit about the car.
Dream car, obviously, poster car, 88 Countach, in the best color, it's the best year, it's the best color.
The best wheels, too.
It's perfect. It's everything I want out of a crazy, car like this. Highly original, 18,000 miles, no accidents, no paint work. It has had a little bit of touch up, because it's been used, right. The last owner before me had it for 10 years. He only put about 1,000 miles on it. But the gold finish on the wheels is original. The interior is original except for part of the driver's seat. And the paint, we're talking about 80s Italy, and we're talking about mixed materials. This car has fiberglass, this car has aluminum, and this car has carbon Kevlar on it. So, there's a lot kind of going on, and in the case of the carbon Kevlar, which is the engine bonnet and a couple other pieces, like you remember from like the F40, you can kind of see that weave through there.
Definitely see it there.
You can totally see it through here. And, as you can imagine, being a Countach, the engine's hot. And so you have some toasting here on the engine bonnet. You have a couple, a little bit up there. You have a little bit of spider cracking around there. The engine bonnet is very thin. And then on the passenger side radiator scoop, there's a stress crack there. Overall, like for a 30-year-old Italian original paint job, like it's pretty good. And it's dusty now, so it doesn't look as good as it could. When it's just washed, it cleans up real nice. Yeah.
But based on all of that, I'm thinking focusing more on a preservation detail, which is typically one liquid, one pad, sort of minimizing the amount of paint that's going to be removed. Yeah. The goal here is just to keep it in its original condition.
Yeah, you want to, stay where you're at. And it's a very special car, not just for me, being A, my first kind of crazy exotic, B, the car that, you saw as a kid on my wall.
Right.
But also, this very car, it's done photo shoots with Cindy Crawford, and it was in Motor Trend Classic, it was an automobile. It's the car, I got to review it. 26,000 original kilometers, and it is just the greatest thing ever. This was the first Countach I ever drove.
Meaningful to you, I guess.
And so the fact that I have the opportunity to buy it and be the caretaker of it, and the dude who bought it for me, about once a month, he texts me and he goes, I can't wait to buy that car back from you, and I can't wait to charge him 3 times what he sold it to me for. No, but I want to keep it, you know, looking as good as it can, so I can keep driving and having fun with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Between Kevin, Derek, and Daniel, I think we can handle it.
I'm sure.
But the big thing is, we need you to go because I got a lot of work to do.
Ah, leaving. Excellent.
Later, dude.
See you later.
Because this is such a big job with a lot of real estate to cover, and I'm only in California for 3 days, I called in some heavy hitters, Kevin Brown, Derek Bemiss, and Daniel Holinger, to help restore the very thin, finicky, and single-stage paint. Step 1, of course, is to clean the paint to remove any obvious dirt or contaminants that could interfere with the polishing pad and the liquid. Because of LA regulations, we set up a water reclamation mat in the driveway and parked the Countach on top of the waterproof berm before we sprayed any water or foam. First, Kevin applied ammo boost and car soap to the wheel wells, tire tread, and subframe of the vehicle to knock off the heavy grime in the hard-to-reach areas. To perform a detail of this level, we started from the ground up and allowed boost and foam to do their work in these tight areas. And after about a 3-minute soak, Kevin came back and power washed the boost off the very special Albertoni exhaust, the rear subframe, and wheel wells prior to starting the wheel cleaning process. As you can see from the brown color of the rinse water, the undercarriage held a ton of unseen junk. The next step was to actually clean the magnesium wheels referred to as phone dials in the original gold finish and manufactured by OZ Racing. The rear tires are 345 Series 15s, which is insane back in 1988. Thankfully, being in California, Derek drove up his truck with plenty of supplies. In this case, we applied wheel cleaner to the rims and APC to the rubber. Then I immediately hopped in to agitate the dirt while Derek moved on to the next rim. The sun was getting intense, so we had to move quickly. Once done, Daniel pressure washed my wheels as we all leapfrogged around the car to avoid premature drying. Afterwards, we used deionized water from the mobile truck tank to rinse the paint, then foamed it with ammo boost before Derek and I washed the paint. At the same time, Kevin worked in the creases and seams with a small detailing brush and bottle of soapy water mixture similar to the technique he used on Barry Maguire's Ford GT last year, while Daniel's using a designated towel just for the lower portions of the car. Then we carefully power washed the remaining foam off the paint without getting too crazy on the vents and rear hatch, followed up by an open hose water rinse to carry most of the standing water away, and the Derek Bemiss leaf blower method for the nooks and crannies while we cleaned up the jams and drips with dry microfiber towels, only to reveal swirled, dried out paint in desperate need of preservation and protection in phase 2 of the detail. With the car moved out of the sun and back into the garage, we vacuumed up all the water with a wet vac, wiped it dry, and carefully folded the mat back up into Derek's truck. Once inside, we inspected the paint again, now that it was 100% clean, and came up with a game plan based on its age, condition, single stage, and soon-to-be-discovered clear coat areas, but the biggest concern on dry, brittle paint is, of course, burn-through on the edgework. I guess the trick that we're trying to determine right now is how long is it going to take to do with your hand, literally on the edge. That's hours and hours of little fine work like this. So if we were to put a pad on this right here, these 2 edges, they just burn right through. This paint is non-existent. So all this edge right here, as an example, there's 5,000 other examples here, it's all gonna have to be done by hand. So this edge right here, look, get this one, right? This edge right here, this edge right here, this, it's just all over the place here. If you were to hit this with a pad, and some of this is already starting to come off. You can see a little white lines there. It's just starting to wear out. You can see the paint is already broken through here. I guess the point of the story is this just went from a lot of work to an insane amount of work. So step 1 of the preservation is to rub out all the edges by hand with M110 and a microfiber towel, which works surprisingly well, but it's obviously time-consuming and tedious. Think of it this way, it's sort of like painting a room. You first clean up the edge work, then you go in with your big rollers on the flat, big areas. In this analogy, however, if you bump the edges with one of your rollers, you actually blow through the sheetrock, if that makes sense. So I do think the mission here is literally just every time there's an edge, we just need to work the edge by hand and leave the space in the middle for the bigger machines. So I guess I'm just in my mind, I don't think it's very complicated. It's just incredibly tedious because of the amount of, this flips up, all these little gaps and stuff, but it's not hard, it's just a lot of work. going from the front to the back, we're cleaning up all the edges like we talked about before we get into the bigger machines. And as I moved or transitioned from the front to this A-pillar here, I stopped getting single stage, obviously red on the towel. And I'm rubbing and rubbing, I'm saying, what's going on here? Then all of a sudden, there's a distinctive line right here where I pick up single stage again. So the moral of the story is this has been repainted and clear coated, same with the roof. And then they transitioned and blended it in, and it actually turns back to single stage. Then it goes from here, this is two stage, clear coat. This here is single stage again. So I can only imagine what we're gonna find on the back of the car. A few hours and numb fingers later, we were ready for step number 2. Now this is done with a machine and a pad cut to a particular shape.
If you're trying to remove a defect along an edge, tied up against the fender where it meets the hood, somewhere like that, and you want to get just right up to the edge with the pad and put some pressure down, well, there's no backing plate support for that, so it just squishes, okay? So by eliminating the flare in that situation, now when we do some pressuring, you've got backing plate support. Directly below the backing plate, you're going to get the most cut from pressure and tilt. Okay, so now we're moved on to the defect removal step, and we're using our small machine to get in these very tight areas. And for this process, because small pads load up so quickly, we're going to clean them a lot. So we don't use a lot of buffing liquid. Actually going to start with that quantity there. Just going to move back and forth. First, we're just going to do a couple of back and forth passes. Stop. I'm not even going to inspect it because I don't think we would have removed all of the defect. It wipes away easily. A quick run against the pad against the microfiber. And I'm going to use what's left, which is not very much, but I want to clean it up so I can see what I've got. I'm using a little slower speed and a little bit of tilt, a little more pressure on the edge of the pad. And that's that. We're going to stop and get my inspection light and see what we've got. And we'll do that maybe 3 or 4 times in certain sections, maybe even more than that. It's just we want to go small incremental steps so we leave as much paint on as possible. Inspecting the paint, and I've got the defects removed that I wanted to. Now we're not going for perfection. We want to remove as much defects as possible and keep as much paint intact. So we're going to go ahead and in the small areas use our small machines, and of course anything that's larger like the door or the roof, we can use the bigger machines. But we determined in our testing that once we've done the defect removal step, we're going to switch to the bigger machines because we're going to jump up the surface area of the pad. We know that the small pads really load up quickly and that can cause scouring. The larger pads, we can use them a longer period of time or less passes to get the work done. Plus there's a lot more force on these bigger machines, so they cut quickly. So that's going to be the process.
Again, notice the mow down technique used on the flip up headlight. The arm motion is relatively quick and somewhat imprecise. This is a great example of what a mow down pass is. Your goal is to pick up as much dry, dead paint first before correction. The dead skin or residue is cleaned off onto the towel or blow station. Then part 2 is another few passes without adding more 110 to further mow down or pick up the last bits of residue before focusing in on strategic correction. This concept is key to older cars and finicky paints. After we feel more comfortable with the level of correction appropriate and, more importantly, safe for this particular car, then and only then do we switch to a beveled edge yellow foam pad with M110 at a higher speed to finish the paint and avoid scouring.
Consistent. Huh? Oh, yeah. By bumping the speed up, the pad can't drag as hard and grip, right? So it glides more. And then you can bump your speed up because it's gliding. So we're getting a lot of movement. We're mimicking a large stroke essentially in a skinny area. By moving our arm speed faster, you're extending the stroke this way, right? Yeah. Instead of this way, you're just kind of doing it this way. So the increased arm speed gives you that long stroke effect, and the increased RPM doesn't allow the pad to dig in and bite. So for our initial cutting, do what you normally do. Run whatever speed you want that's comfortable, grind away your defect, wipe that off. I'm switching to a different pad. I'm switching to the flared pad, which conforms better and doesn't bite on the edge like this one would, right? Right. and bringing the speedway up. And look at that.
It's perfect.
Incredible. That is a 12 out of 12 cut that if you draw back the quantity of liquid and the pad drag, foam, higher speed, we're not creating heat. We're just dragging. It finishes out great. Look at that.
So cutting this was, in this case, not the best idea.
It was for cutting.
For cutting.
So when I want to get along this edge and get right in here and come in, cut, 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 cut.
Right.
If I do it with this one, I'm not getting much cut. I have to come to here to get the cut because the backing plates.
Now for finishing, you wouldn't want to go with
I'm using very little pad drag, right? I'm not creating a lot of friction. I'm going high speed and I'm mimicking larger strokes. So if it momentarily touches that, it's not even affecting it. We're just cleaning up the haziness, so. It's tough.
This is tricky paint.
It's tricky paint, but it's more of a tricky car.
Right.
It's thin on the edges. It's sharp edged.
We have clear coat on the back. We have single stage on the front.
Yep.
There's little pieces.
We don't know the history of the edges.
Yeah.
We kind of got an indication in some areas. Who knows why that was repainted. But the car itself is fantastic. We want to keep it that way. So we're going to do our defect removal to a level we think is acceptable and safe. And then we're going to finish out all with one liquid and essentially one pad. We're changing the pad design, but we're using the same type of foam. So we're really just adjusting our procedures.
With that, we bumped up to larger size machines and pads when possible to cover the larger areas.
Okay, at this point, we've been working on the car for about 7+ hours, something like that, 8 hours. And as you can tell with single stage paint, as you're polishing, all the residue's coming off, embedding itself in the pad, and you have to get rid of it. But once you do get rid of it, where does it go? So we have a couple of different options here based on complexity and price. The first one, of course, is you can just take a regular bucket. As you can see, this is just laundry detergent. And Derek drilled a hole in here, and this is a vacuum, goes to your actual vacuum. You turn it on, you put the pad right here, you blow it out with your compressed air, and it catches it and doesn't go everywhere. As you can see, we're in this ridiculous, amazing place, and if we were to blow out pads just freehand, just anywhere, we'd have to clean up red dust all over every single car, so that's not a great idea. So you don't want to do that at your house or at your detail shop. Very simple, it's like $5 or whatever. Option 2, you have a pad washer. It has water in it. You put the pad on it, and obviously you get all the residue out doing that, but the kind of downside with this is it is very wet, so you have to blow the pad out again. It's a little bit of a longer process, so I typically use pad washers at the end of the day. When I have all my pads after I'm done with the car, I'll take them, clean them like thoroughly, then blow them out, let them dry out, etc. And then we have the Kevin Brown blowout station. It's a little bit more complex, just like Kevin Brown is, but it's amazing because we're in this big place and we literally can, the four of us can just run over here. We flip on the switch. When you flip on the switch, the fans turn on, and so as we're blowing the pads, the residue comes out, sucks in through, because the fans are in reverse, goes all the way down, and on the bottom here, there's filters all the way around. So as the air comes out, the dust gets caught in those filters, and just the air comes out, and there's nothing on any of these cars. So the point of the story is, 1, you got to get rid of the residue because it's coming off the car. 2, when you do get rid of it, you have to capture it somehow. You can have something complex and fun. Obviously, if you have a shop, this is a good idea, and we do this all the time, so it's nice to have this. Or you can get as simple as just a bucket with a hose, or even if you don't have the hose, put some water in it, just a light dust of water, a mist of water, spray it in there. It'll attach, the residue will attach to it, and it's not stuck all over your walls.
With a bit of tape placed on the more sensitive areas, we spent much of the rest of our day perfecting the larger sections of the paint in between the edges. After following the mow down and subsequent steps, the before and after is significant, but the aspect of detailing that causes the most issue is what's called the detailing dilemma. The detailing dilemma is the drive to have everything perfect all the time. This mentality, although admirable, can be devastating if the risks outweigh the rewards. Possessing self-control, especially on these very technical cars, will keep you out of trouble and hopefully the repaint booth. Another thing to keep in mind when working on finicky single-stage paint is to position your body in the most comfortable way to work on the paint without causing the pad in the machine to inadvertently tilt by default because your body is actually higher than the machine itself. So laying down on your back, especially for taller detailers, is not only ergonomic, but it actually produces a better result most of the time because of the increased pad control. As we finished up for the night, I wanted to add a few layers of protection now so I could add a few more the next morning. To do this, apply a dollop of gelée to your palm while wearing gloves and work the formula into the wheel, overlapping as much as possible, but try to keep the layers thin. Focus more on even coverage than heavy layers. Once 100% covered, remove with a designated wheel microfiber towel and allow 1 to 5 minutes to cure before adding another layer if desired. Then, moisturize the rubber with mud for a balanced shine. 2 coats may be necessary on older or non-regular maintained tires. While I was working the wheels, Daniel polished the Bertoni tailpipes, which sound insane on the road. And afterwards, we added 2 layers of ammo skin to preserve the paint from further oxidation in the California sun. Bright and early the next day, we pulled the car outside to go for a drive up in the mountains and truly got to see the depth of the preservation detail once it hit the sunlight. The paint literally looks dripping wet or brand new straight out of the booth. From there, we headed up PCH to get up into the hills and out of the LA traffic to give the Countach a proper drive.
Dude, this car is ridiculously shiny. It's crazy. And you know what's like my favorite part about this, you could probably attest to it, is that like when you really, really clean a car, it drives a little happier. Now what do I do? Like, you're leaving. What do I, like, now what? Like, great, you came and did the car, it looks amazing. Like,
There's this golden rules. Touch it the least amount as possible. When you do touch it, have as much lubrication, i.e. water. If you can't have water because we're in California, use frothy, something with lubrication in it.
Well, I only have to make it till August, because then, West Side Collector Car Storage, my place, is opening, and we have a permanent wash bay.
Yeah.
So I only have to figure out how to keep it clean from now until like just after Pebble Beach.
Right. As little touching as possible. Once you're in that spot, I would power wash it down when you have the right, things. Power wash it down, dry it with a damp microfiber towel, hydrate. Like, you literally have to do nothing. So like your prescription or whatever for this is like, don't touch it.
As little as possible.
Yeah.
After an amazing afternoon up in the mountains, we stopped off at the famous Malibu Kitchen for lunch and got to take a few minutes to ourselves just to catch up about our old car wash business in New York and the excitement of his upcoming wedding in a few weeks back at home. Now, I've known Matt for over 25 years. Grade school, high school, college, we started a business together. We started filming videos on this new thing at the time called YouTube together. And now, as adults, being able to pursue our respective dreams while within the car world is a very special privilege. And then us looking back at that long journey, it was well worth the sacrifices. For more behind-the-scenes info on Matt's car and our detailing process, watch the Smoking Tire podcast with Kevin, Derek, myself, and Matt. Finally, I want to give a huge thank you to Kevin Brown from BuffDaddy.com, Derek Bemiss from DetailWorks.net, and Daniel Holinger from TheCarConnoisseur.com for all their hard work and expertise in such a short period of time. For more helpful how-to car care videos, visit AmmoNYC.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.